And welcome once again to the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. Happy Wednesday to everybody out there. Don't forget, every Monday and Wednesday night, 5 o'clock on my Facebook page and on my YouTube channel, you get new episodes. And during the middle of the week, got time to look at what happened over the weekend, kind of dissect anything that is breaking during the week. I'm still having that LeBron watch, and I don't know what's going to happen, but there's a lot to get into. Got a special guest that's going to be joining me later in the show. It's Phillip Jordan from the Phillip Jordan podcast. Cannot wait for that interview as we talk SEC Media Days. Right now, as we speak, ACC Media Days is going on. I'm also going to preview the AFC South, and I'm going to break which sports movie review I'm going to do next week. Let's go ahead and dive right into the show. World Cup that's happening right now as we speak in Atlanta, Argentina and Spain. And I think that Spain ends up winning this one. Argentina has had a very easy pathway to the semifinals so far. And I honestly think, it's going to be Argentina. Ended up losing to England. Yesterday, we had Spain beat France 2-0. I was completely shocked because France was my favorite to win the World Cup. And Kylian Mbappe, a very disappointing match with Spain. I was really hoping that Lamine Yamal was able to get his first World Cup goal. He was actually offsides on a goal that was called back. But it was, he's something special. 19 years old. He's going to be in many World Cups to come. And it's been a very successful tournament. Remember, the World Cup final is going to be this Sunday. And I think it's going to be now that France is out. I've been saying France and England. I think it's going to be Spain and England in this one. So definitely looking forward to that. The World Cup, although I have been very disappointed with the United States. I still think that this has really been a World Cup where the whole world has come together and to embrace our country. And you have people that, eating at Waffle House, embracing college football and going to stores that they would never get to go to back in their home country. And it's not just us. Mexico and Canada has done a great job hosting this World Cup as well. And there's going to be a match in Atlanta that's going on right now, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, England and Argentina. Cannot wait to see who ends up winning that. Is it going to be Lionel Messi? Is he going to sail into the night and get another World Cup final appearance, as he does have a World Cup appearance back in 2014, and then finally winning the World Cup in 2022? Can he go back-to-back? Or can England reach the World Cup final and try to win their second World Cup in their country's history with the likes of Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham? I really am excited to see what is going to happen. All right, let's go ahead and talk the MLB All-Star Game, because it took place in Philadelphia, the 250th birthday of our country. And the American League ends up dominating with pitching 4-0, 15 strikeouts over the National League, a total of 27 strikeouts in the game. Cody Bellinger ends up winning the All-Star Game MVP. And this has been complete domination in the last 30 years by the American League. Get this. The National League has only won 5 times and 1 tie in the last 30 years. The American League has been dominant, and it made sense when the American League had the designated hitter. Now the National League has the designated hitter. Jordan Walker ended up winning the home run derby on Monday. I thought that was pretty cool that he was able to get 6 home runs in a row to beat out hometown favorite Kyle Schwarber. And he's a local guy from Decatur, Georgia. So big shout out to Jordan Walker, and he's going to have a bright future for the St. Louis Cardinals. It's always great when you have an unknown win the home run derby. Now he can come into his own and, be that power hitter that we're hoping that he could be. It feels a little empty today, no baseball We have one baseball game tomorrow, and then Major League Baseball starts back up on Friday. The Columbus Cleanstones are in action for a 3-game series against the Chattanooga Lookouts, going to be on the road. So it's a feel where not a whole lot of sports going on today. We do have the ESPYs going on, but other than that, there's really not much to talk about. So, with the British Open coming up this weekend, called the Open Championship, we got NBA Summer League, NBA free agency. Where is LeBron going to go? There are teams now starting to court him, and I'm just hoping by the time this show airs that LeBron doesn't make his decision, because I am pre-recording this. I don't know where LeBron James is going to go. He could go to Philly. He could go to Minnesota. He can go to Golden State. I just don't know. Right now, I'm just intrigued by Summer League. We got a local guy to Columbus, Georgia, Jalen Sellers, who dropped 24 points in his Summer League debut with the Chicago Bulls. Well, not debut. He's had a couple games under his belt, but 24 points, not too shabby for a guy trying to make the roster. He signed a 2-way contract, which means he'll play in the G League and play in the NBA when the time is got an opportune time for him to get some minutes in the NBA. But he can ball, and I think that he is going to make this Chicago Bulls roster. I mean, he looked fantastic. This guy led Providence in scoring. He was second team All Big East out of Spencer High School. He graduated in 2021. That was the year before I really started paying attention to high school sports in Columbus. I didn't really start helping live stream games until 2023 on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, but I've really been a fan of basketball, especially in the Chattahoochee Valley, and I appreciate guys like Sam Mitchell and Mark Upshaw, and then in the Chattahoochee Valley, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, and we've had some others, Claude English, great basketball players that have been part of the Chattahoochee Valley. They're now making an impact in the NBA. All right. Yeah, going through fast because, we want to try to get Phillip Jordan here on the show. We do have ACC Media Days going on right now, and it's 3 days. It is in Charlotte, and one thing about ACC Media Days, I had the privilege of being a part of SEC Media Days last year. It was in Atlanta, which, by the way, I hope that someday ACC Media Days can make it to Atlanta. It's always been in Charlotte, but Miami is the team that everybody's talking about. They are projected to finish first in the ACC, even though they didn't win the ACC last year. Last year, Duke ended up winning it, and they didn't get into the college football playoff. Miami ended up winning it, and the one thing about SEC Media Days is it's 3 days long, and so a lot of teams taking the podium. I think that the media really wants to see how Dabo Swinney handles the transfer portal for Clemson. Bill Belichick taking the podium is always fun, but it's an incredible moment for the ACC. As I'm looking right now, here are the teams that are taking the podium today: Florida State, Miami, NC State, Stanford, and Virginia. So tomorrow, we actually have 6 teams. So we got 5 teams today. We got 6 teams tomorrow: Boston College, Clemson, Georgia Tech, Louisville, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech. You're going to see the debut of James Franklin. He's going to be taking the podium tomorrow. Friday, we got Cal, Duke, the defending ACC champions with Manny Diaz, North Carolina with Bill Belichick, Rhett Lashley with SMU, Wake Forest. I tell you what, with 16 teams in the ACC, 17 teams now. Yeah, hard to believe. 17 teams in the ACC. Miami is projected to finish 1. Louisville right there at number 2. NC State, the one team that's on the hot seat is the Florida State Seminoles with Mike Norvell. And some polls have them, they're projected to finish 12. Remember, Ashton Daniels is now the starting quarterback. He was at Stanford last year. He came in to fill in for Jackson Arnold when he got benched for Auburn. So I think Ashton Daniels has something to prove. I know Florida has gone through, after Jordan Travis, they've gone through DJ Uiagalelei. They had that quarterback from Boston College, and he was just got really excited, able to beat Alabama to start the season, and then they fell flat on their face. I mean, I do think that Florida State is that team to watch out for, and I don't know what they are going to do, but they do play Alabama this year. But this time it's going to be in Tuscaloosa. That's going to be a little bit of a revenge game for Alabama. But yeah, Miami is expected to be the toast of the ACC, getting all the way to the college football national championship. I think that Miami has got a great team coming back. I'm really excited about what the Miami Hurricanes can do. All right, why don't we do this? Let's take a break, and we come back. I got more here on the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. We'll be back after this. And we are back here on the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. Don't forget, Phillip Jordan is going to be coming on the show in just a bit. I do want to get back to ACC Media Days because me being a part of SEC Media Days last year, I do have an appreciation for these media days. We already had Big 12 Media Days. Sun Belt Media Days is actually going on right now. And then next week, we got SEC Media Days in Tampa. And then the week after that, we have Big 10 Media Days. But the reason why Miami, it looks like they're going to be the team not only that's going to win the ACC, but they're going to compete for a college football playoff spot. Darian Menza, the quarterback from Duke, transfers over to Miami. They also have a couple other transfers like Cooper Barcate from Duke. He's transferring over from Duke to go to Miami. And then they also have Mark Fletcher and Malachi Toney. I mean, those are some weapons. And we all know that Miami has a really good defense. Reuben Bain is now on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that they're going to drop off a little bit, but they are also getting Damian Wilson, a defensive lineman from Missouri. So I wanted to take a break so I can get back my prediction for the ACC. I think Miami ends up winning this and getting into the college football playoff. And I don't think any other ACC team is going to get in the college football playoff. I think it's going to be just Miami. SMU, remember, they were in the college football playoff 2 years ago. Rhett Lashley always has a good team. They got a pretty good offensive line. They're projected to finish second. Louisville projected to finish third. Isaac Brown is one player to look out for. You got Clemson. Once again, the talks about Dabo Swinney embracing the transfer portal. Can Clemson get over the hump? And Dabo Swinney and his Clemson Tigers are projected to finish fourth. Virginia Tech, I think James Franklin's going to make a big difference. I think Virginia Tech gets back to 8-9 wins and go into a big-time bowl for the ACC. Actually, in this magazine I got, they're projecting that Virginia Tech is going to go to the Duke Mayo Bowl to take on Tennessee. The Virginia Cavaliers, remember, they were so close. They should have beat Duke. I think if they would have won, I think they'd be in the college football playoff. No question about that. They're projected to finish sixth. Pitt projected to finish seventh, and then Georgia Tech projected to finish eighth. Georgia Tech losing their offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner, is going to be huge, but they also have a very good running back who's from Northside out of Columbus, Malachi Hosley. But you also have several other quarterbacks like Justice Haynes. And then their quarterback is a sophomore, Alberto Mendoza. But I think that Georgia Tech is going to lose a little bit of spark, losing their offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner, who's now the OC at Florida. And those are the top 8. Let me go ahead and round out that top 17. as we got NC State at number 9, Cal at 10. Florida State is projected to finish 11th, Wake Forest at 12. How about this? The defending ACC champions projected to finish all the way down to 13. Or how about North Carolina? Bill Belichick under year 2 projected to finish 14th. We got the Qs at 15, Boston College at 16, and then the Stanford Cardinal at 17. That is the ACC in a nutshell. I'm interested to see some of the sound bites from ACC Media Days. This is going to be a lot of fun. Let's go ahead and switch gears from college football in the ACC to the AFC South, where I'm going to recap what happened last year between the 4 teams in the AFC South and just briefly talk about what we could expect this year in this division. Obviously, last year, the Jacksonville Jaguars came out of nowhere. They were 5-4, and they rattled off an incredible win streak to win the division at 13-4. They took advantage of mediocre play by the Houston Texans quarterback and then the injury to Daniel Jones, because I thought the Indianapolis Colts were going to run away with this division. Jacksonville ended up hosting a playoff game, but losing to the Buffalo Bills in the first round of the playoffs. I think they drop off. Travis Etienne is now in New Orleans. They will get Travis Hunter back because I'm not sure how good Travis Hunter is going to be coming off that injury. I think Trevor Lawrence regresses. Jacksonville's not sneaking up on anybody. Liam Cohen proved that he was one of the candidates of Coach of the Year. Going into year 2, they're going to play a tougher schedule, and I don't think they're going to sneak up on anybody. I still think that they got a pretty solid defense with Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines Allen. He's now Hines Allen now, not to be confused with the Buffalo Bills quarterback. But Jacksonville's going to have a decent defense. But I do think the team to keep an eye on, if healthy, Daniel Jones gives the Indianapolis Colts and Shane Steichen that offense absolute weapons. Now, Michael Pittman's now on the Steelers, but you have one of the best running backs still in his prime, Jonathan Taylor, and then Quentin Nelson, one of the best guards in the NFL. I like the Indianapolis Colts. And what helps is that they play an easier schedule. They're going to play a third-place schedule, so the Colts might end up winning this division. Houston has the best defense in the NFL, no question about it. And I think that Houston, DeMeco Ryans, I love him as a coach, the former defensive coordinator for the 49ers. I'll tell you, in this division, we got 2 former defensive coordinators for the San Francisco 49ers. C.J. Stroud is really the big question mark. He has got to be consistent because C.J. Stroud, you saw what happened in the playoff game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I want to see more progression and C.J. Stroud have a better season because the picks were up and the completion percentage was down, and the Houston Texans were winning in spite of C.J. Stroud. He's got to get better. Otherwise, Davis Mills might come in and try to win that starting spot. It's hard to believe that C.J. Stroud would lose his starting spot to Davis Mills, but if he does not play well, then Houston may have to go to a different quarterback, and I hate doing that because I like C.J. Stroud and I want to see him have success. The team that's not really a big mystery. The Titans went 3-14 last year, and they had another high draft pick after drafting Cam Ward, and he was their franchise quarterback to lead them into a new era. It just did not work out with Brian Callahan. It was not a very good hire. They never should have fired Mike Vrabel. Well, in comes Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh proved that he could be a head coach. I think the Jets let him go too early. The 49ers got gift-wrapped Robert Saleh to be the defensive coordinator for last season, and you saw what the 49ers did, got to the divisional playoffs with backups on defense. So Robert Saleh deserves this chance to be a head coach once again. He's got Brian Dable as offensive coordinator. Carnell Tate, I'm telling you, Ohio State wide receivers, this is another one who could have a breakout year. for the wide receiver position for the Tennessee Titans. Cam Ward needs help on that offensive line. I think that's going to be the big question mark. But the Titans might improve and get some wins because they are playing a last place schedule. I think that could be a possibility. All right, well, a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, next week I'm going to preview another division on Monday. I usually preview an NFC division on Monday, an AFC division on Wednesday. We're going to do this all the way leading up to training camp and the start of the NFL season. But it is time to reveal what my sports movie review is going to be for Monday. I love this segment. I have already done movies like Facing the Giants, which was a football movie, Kicking and Screaming, which was a soccer movie. I've already done Above the Rim, which is a basketball movie. And then on Monday, I reviewed The Scout, which is a baseball movie. Well, it's fitting that I do a hockey movie. And there's not a whole lot of hockey movies. I mean, Miracle, obviously based on a true story. The Mighty Ducks. But which Mighty Ducks am I going to do? Because I like picking a movie where I can be critical of that. I was like, no, that's not realistic. But I'm going to pick D2, The Mighty Ducks. Because in spirit of the Winter Olympics that just happened this year and the fact that Iceland doesn't even have a hockey team, I'm going to do D2, The Mighty Ducks. I think that's going to be what I would like to do for my sports movie review. Why don't we take a break? When we come back, Phillip Jordan is coming on the show. You don't want to go anywhere. It's a Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. And we'll be right back after this. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. I'm so excited to be giving you another episode. Don't forget, every Monday and Wednesday night, 5 o'clock on my Facebook page and YouTube channel, you get new episodes. You can also listen to the replay of the show on WQVZ Mission Radio 1700 AM every Sunday night at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, and also replays are found on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast. I'm excited about my next guest. I've been promoting him all week. He's been a friend of the show. He's been a frequent guest. Back in the day when I had guests like 2-3 years ago, this guy would come on regularly. We got SEC Media Days coming up next week. I couldn't think of a better guest. Please welcome to the Sports Beat my good friend, Phillip Jordan. Phillip, what's going on with you?
Richard, it has been a long time since I've been on the show with you. Appreciate you asking me to come on the show. I know we're going to talk some SEC, of course, the Auburn Tigers. I'm sure we'll get popped up here and there through there. But, I appreciate you asking me on.
Absolutely. And it's been a while since you've been on. I mean, I've retooled this show. There was like a 4-month period where I had a hiatus. And, I've been doing sports talk radio in Columbus, doing the streaming thing with Georgia Alabama Sports Live. But I felt like I needed to bring it back. And we had so much fun just talking college football. I know that we got SEC Media Days that's coming up next week. I had the privilege to attend SEC Media Days last year. It was in Atlanta. I had the time of my life. I networked with all the big players when it comes to media. But this year it's going to be in Tampa because of cost. I'm decided that I'm going to stay up here. My broadcast partner is actually going to be down there, and we're going to do a live hit on the radio station from there. But I think it's unique that it's in Tampa. This is going to be the first time that it's going to be in Tampa. And what are you looking forward to most about SEC Media Days? Who are some of the players you want to see? Obviously, we got 5 new coaches in the SEC. What's your take on SEC Media Days next week in Tampa?
Well, obviously, the Lane Kiffin part is going to be one that everybody's going to be wanting to see. I mean,
no question.
That's a big one. A lot of stuff, I'm sure, kind of the last couple years we've gotten, probably not as much of the NIL conversation and transfer portal conversation, but I feel like we're going to get a lot on the college football play. It feels like about a month or two ago, that was a hot topic on should it go to 24. It's been at 12, go to 16, whatever the number people want to go to. Obviously, I think the SEC, the most they want to go to 16. But obviously, Commissioner Sankey is probably going to talk about that in his opening statements. And I think a lot of coaches are going to be asked about that as well and their thoughts. I'll be interested in the media, who they have. I feel like we're probably on another collision course of Texas and Georgia in the SEC championship game. But interested in what they say. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be tuned in on what Alex Golesh is going to say, the new Auburn head coach. Very, very favorable with him, what he's doing so far. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff. It's 16 teams, man. You know, it's going to be a lot to digest next week. A lot to digest.
It truly is. And some of the takeaways from last year's SEC Media Days, they gave me a ballot. I thought it was pretty cool. Got to do the predicted order finish. I ranked all 16 teams. I think I had Texas 1 and Georgia 2. Texas got a lot of hype last year, and rightfully so. Arch Manning was a rock star at SEC Media Day, and I think he's going to be a rock star this year. I also got to vote the all-SEC team. I think the quarterback play is as good as it gets, Phillip, with Arch Manning, with Trinidad Chambliss over at Ole Miss, John Mateer at Oklahoma, Gunnar Stockton at Georgia. What's your takeaway on the SEC being top heavy? We know they're going to get a lot of teams in the college football playoff, but there is a little bit of pressure for them to win a national championship because they haven't won it in 3 years.
Yeah, you see, that's the problem right now with the SEC, because when you look at the conference 1 through 16, I still will say it is better than the Big Ten. But the problem with the SEC has right now is at the top of the conference. Right now, when you look at the Big Ten, you've got Ohio State, Michigan. I love to hire Kyle Whittingham come in. That is going to be a national championship contending team with him as the head coach. Indiana's not going anywhere. And look, Oregon's really good. They've got some teams up top. They're top heavy as well with title contending teams. The problem with the SEC right now, they don't have that. Outside of Georgia and Texas, I can't with confidence tell you who I think is a national title contender from the conference. And you talked about Arch Manning. I think he unjustly got judged all of last year because how bad he played against Ohio State. That first game going against an NFL defensive coordinator.
Matt Patricia.
Yeah, that had all offseason the game plan for him to throw stuff at Arch that he had never seen. I think Arch Manning played much better down the stretch. And let's be honest, you know, everybody points at Ohio State game why Texas wasn't in the playoff. It was because they lost to Florida. You don't lose to Florida last year, you're 10-2, and you go to the playoff. But Arch got much better. And look, hate to see him leave Auburn, but when you look at Cam Coleman now partnered up with Arch, and Texas is not messing around with NIL and what they did going after certain players in the transfer portal. Texas is loading up for this year. But I'm extremely excited to see what Arch Manning is capable of. And we're already seeing it. He's now being put as the top quarterback in the NFL draft boards going into the 2027 NFL draft. So Texas is going to be one to watch. And I'm saying Arch, he was much improved throughout the year, because, you know, a lot of people forget that Peyton Manning and Eli Manning were not great when they first started either. And they had to learn and develop and get where they need to be. He, and I know I'm going on about the Arch thing, but those were unreasonable expectations to put on him last year. And I think we're going to get closer to what people think he can be this upcoming season.
Phillip, I do want to talk about the transfers. You already talked about Cam Coleman. He is the top transfer that went from Auburn to Texas. Lane Kiffin and LSU, they've got several transfers, including Sam Leavitt, the quarterback from Arizona State. And I think that LSU is going to have a big impact, but I don't think Ole Miss fell off that much. Trinidad Chambliss, we saw what he did in the Sugar Bowl against Georgia. He is a playmaker, and they got one of the top running backs in the SEC in K1 Lacey. But who do you think is going to be the transfer is going to have the most impact on his new team?
Well, you know, quarterback's a very easy one to do with that. And look, Sam Leavitt, I have questions. He got hurt last year. And look, Scatterboo was the big reason why Arizona State was so great on defense, on offense. The year they made it to play with Leavitt at quarterback. We'll see how that works. I would like to see Lane Kiffin quit talking about Ole Miss here and there, but I just had to throw that in when talking about Lane Kiffin. Quit. It's like you broke up with the girl, but now you keep talking about her. I mean, let it go, Lane. So I may give a homer a biased answer here. Byron Brown is the make or break for Auburn this upcoming football season, because this is the guy, we saw what he did at South Florida with Alex Golesh, and he's got a lot of his receivers with him there at Auburn. A guy that threw for 3,000 and ran for 1,000 last year. The only quarterback in the country to do that, 42 touchdowns. Now, a lot of people get on him about his throwing motion, and he did not have a great spring game at 8A Auburn. I went to the game. He made some questionable decisions, and it hurt him. He threw some interceptions, but he is the key because, man, it's been so long since Auburn has had an impact player at the quarterback position. Peyton Thorne wasn't it. Jackson Arnold wasn't it. You can argue that Bo Nix was an impact player, but, it was inconsistency. Same thing with Jarrett Stidham. Auburn really hasn't had a consistent impact player at that position since Cam Newton. So I think Byron Brown is one of those type of players that could really be a make or break for Auburn. It could have the biggest impact.
Yeah, no question about it. And they open up the season against Baylor, but unfortunately, it's not going to be at Jordan-Hare. I know Auburn fans are complaining about this. It's going to be at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
I hate it.
Are you one of those fans that's complaining that you're not getting Baylor at home?
I understand it from a business standpoint. Take the Auburn part of it out, just looking at it from that standpoint. I know why they're doing it. It's NIL money, and that's, look, at the end of the day, it's all about the money. You got to have money to go get players now. It's college sports deals, but it's turned into professional sports in that degree. So I understand it, but still, Richard, Auburn went to Baylor last year. That was on campus, and now the game should be at Jordan-Hare. I'm big proponent of having these big games on college campuses at the actual state. Don't play them in an NFL stadium. Auburn's going to have more fans there. It's going to be in Atlanta. Obviously, that's not a long drive for Auburn fans, but still, I wish it was at Jordan-Hare. I think because that would be a great atmosphere. Alex Golesh, your first game, a lot of excitement. Played at Jordan-Hare, but you're going to play in Atlanta. They've got Southern Miss the next week, a team they should beat. So Auburn fans really will be hyped up big time for an Alex Golesh coming to the field until week 3 when they play the Florida Gators. But yeah, I wish it was at Jordan-Hare.
Well, Phillip, I do want to start with Auburn because we're going to go through some of these teams. They're going to be featured on SEC Media Days. Alex Golesh comes in his first year, the former South Florida coach. He's going to take the podium on Tuesday. And I think the big outlier is Byron Brown. They're getting Jeremiah Cobb back. I think the schedule is easy to start off. They open up with Baylor, Southern Miss, and then Florida and Vanderbilt. I think they're 4-0 right out the gate. Then I think the game at Tennessee might be tricky, and then they go to Georgia, and then they host LSU. If they're not too careful, that could be 3 losses right there. And then at Ole Miss, that could be 4 losses. But I think that Auburn fans would be satisfied with 8 wins. I think they could get to 9. But what is your expectations of Auburn in the first year for Alex Golesh?
Look, and maybe some Auburn people won't like what I'm about to say. I think they just need to have a winning record. They need to get that streak off of them. They have not had a winning season since 2020. Gus Malzahn's final year at Auburn, they have not had. So 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. That is 5 consecutive losing seasons at Auburn. That is not supposed to happen. That has not happened since, I think, 46 to 50. It was either 40s or 50s last time Auburn has had 5 consecutive losing seasons. Just not something that happens there. Now, obviously, you want more. You don't want to be happy with just a 7-6 or 7-5, whatever you have. But 8 wins would be big. 9 wins obviously would be bigger. And when you look at Auburn, I think the key to the season, I think they beat Baylor to start the season. Baylor does bring in DJ Lagway, who I think is going to be a better version of himself at Baylor because he's going to be healthy going into the season, which he was not last year with Florida. He was hurt with all the fall practice. He was not healthy. but they have offensive line issues. They have a lot of new wide receivers. A little plug for the Phillip Jordan podcast. I have a guy that covers Baylor coming on the show, do an early preview of the game.
Nice.
So we've already done the interview. I haven't released it yet. So some of this information, I learned a lot more about Baylor, and actually talking to him gave me more confidence that Auburn's going to win the game. And Baylor was bad defensively last year. And this for Dave Aranda, he has got to have a winning year, a good year, or he could be gone at the end of the season. But anyways, with that said, I think Auburn should beat Baylor. They're at Atlanta, home crowd. They will have the advantage there. You beat Southern Miss. The Florida game, to me, is the most important game on this Auburn schedule, because if you lose that game, you're 2-1. Then Vanderbilt. Look, we'll see. Clark Lee was a name people mentioned for the Auburn job when Hugh Freeze got fired last year. And I was like, do we know he's a good coach? Or do we know he just had a generational talent at quarterback in Diego Pavia, at the college level at least? Obviously, the NFL told us they don't think he's all that good. But Vanderbilt, we'll see what Clark Lee has there. But you lose to Florida, you got Vanderbilt, then you mentioned Tennessee, and you have all those other games following up. That's a big momentum game because you're in Jordan here. Look, it's John Sumrall. I got Auburn fans wanted. I got Auburn fans wanted. Florida coming in. These two haven't played each other in a long time in football. That's going to be big. And honestly, I'll say this. I think that's also the same thing for Florida. It's a pivotal game for that. So Auburn beats Florida. I think they're on track to win 8 or 9 games. They lose to Florida, then we're talking 6 or 7 win territory.
All right, Phil, let's talk about Auburn's in-state rival, Alabama. Third year for Kalen DeBoer. They made the college football playoff last year. Still had 3 losses. They were the only 3-loss team to ever get into the college football playoff. Did beat Oklahoma in that first round, but then got boat raced by Indiana in the second round of the college football playoff. There is a QB battle, and people are talking about it. Austin Mack, Keelan Russell. I do think with Ryan Coleman Williams, he's now Ryan Coleman Williams, changed his name, is one of the best wide receivers in college football. The talks of Kalen DeBoer on the hot seat, they're long gone. I know he's never going to duplicate what Nick Saban did. But I remember that the Alabama fans had their pitchforks out when they lost to Florida State, because what they saw was, well, this team, it doesn't look like a team that would have been coached by Nick Saban. They're not physical enough. They're soft. I've been hearing it all year, but I think Alabama's still going to be a 9-10 win team, still going to be a college football playoff contender. And I think that Kalen DeBoer is a good coach, and he's got a long contract, and he ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, and I think there's some questions about Alabama on how much money they have in the program too, because from a recruiting standpoint, I think the whole change of the college football landscape, which I honestly think this is probably part of the reason why Nick Saban left Alabama. When we think about it, now we know, and we ain't got to mention names, with Auburn, bring it back to Auburn for a minute. We know who some of the people are that have money around the program that can give the program money. Alabama doesn't have that. They don't have like this big millionaire, billionaire booster. So I think that's going to be down the road. Something could hurt Alabama. They've got talent. I like Keelan Russell at quarterback. If that is a talent. Austin Mack, I think he's going to end up being a backup. He may start the season at quarterback, but I think Keelan Russell eventually will be your starter. But the problem with Alabama, and it's a thing that Alabama fans were very upset with. I listened to the local show down here in Dothan the day after the game. They were on after Indiana, and they were saying what you're saying about Florida State. It did not look like Alabama. Indiana did to Alabama what Alabama used to do to everybody else. Just beat you into submission with their defense in the run game. Alabama could not run the ball. The offensive line wasn't physical enough, and they just could not get anything going. And I have felt this way since the end of last year, kind of really thinking about this. I think Ty Simpson was hurt toward the end of the year because he was not protected as a quarterback. Yeah. You have got to protect your quarterback. And I'll just say this, and this is maybe I think Ty Simpson was the best quarterback drafted in the first round. I think he will be better than the number 1 pick. I think Ty Simpson's got a great future. But back to that, Alabama does have good players on defense. Ryan Williams, Coleman, whatever his name is, we're going by now. He's got to stop dropping the ball. I mean, that was a big thing last year. And the thing now with Alabama, their other two key receivers are gone. Isaiah Horton was one. Jeremy Bernard was another one. Those were guys that really were consistent, steady. They were more reliable than Ryan Williams. Now, Ryan Williams is now your junior now. You're looked at as a leader of a football team, and he's got to play better. I think they'll be fine defensively. Alabama does have some guys in their front seven to replace. They have a lot of experience in the secondary, so defensively they'll be good. But can they run the football? Can they be physical with teams? And that's my biggest question with Kalen DeBoer. And let's look at it. He's beaten good teams at Alabama. Now, Indiana, paid out away. They had no business losing to Florida State last year. They had no business losing to Vanderbilt the year before that. He's losing to teams he shouldn't lose to. That's the problem with Kalen DeBoer. Nick Saban never, he didn't really lose to teams he wasn't supposed to. Auburn may upset him or something like that. But yeah, that's the problem with DeBoer right now is he has lost to teams that Alabama should not be losing to, and they're not physical enough on the line of scrimmage. So yeah, I agree with you. This is probably a 9 or 10 win team, but when they play those physical teams, how are they going to respond? I just don't know.
Phillip, with Georgia, there's a lot left on the table. They are the back-to-back SEC champions, but as a Georgia fan and watching them in the Sugar Bowl against Notre Dame and Ole Miss, I felt they were the better team, and they weren't getting the breaks. There's just a lot to be left undesired by the Georgia Bulldogs, who feel that they are not only a national championship contender, but one of the best teams in college football. Now, they get Gunnar Stockton back. Nate Frazier's coming back. They got one of the top tight ends in Lawson Lucky. They have a defense where all the defensive starters except 4 are back in this roster, with Kirby Smart entering his 11th year. I think that Georgia is the team to beat in the SEC, but they're going to a 9-game conference. They got a tough schedule. They got to go at Bama, at Ole Miss. They do play Florida in Atlanta. And I do think, playing Oklahoma in Athens, that's going to be very interesting. I would not be shocked if John Mateer goes into Athens and gets that upset. I do think that Georgia's a playoff team, but I think with the tough schedule, they're not going to be running the gauntlet.
It's going to be tough. Last year the defense, as talented as they were, they had some issues in some games. The Tennessee game is one I think of, and they couldn't stop Ole Miss in the playoff game. And I look at this the last 2 seasons for Georgia, 2 SEC titles, but we don't talk about that because we're in this expanded playoff era, and they didn't even play in a national championship game. And look, I'll say this: in the game is what it is. You got to play with who you got. Gunnar Stockton had his first career start in that playoff game against Notre Dame. And then last year, of course, Ole Miss, just up and down nature of that game. It was like who was going to have the ball last was going to win more than, how that game was going. But Georgia's done some great things. Good and well, they're in Texas's head. Sarkisian cannot beat Kirby Smart. And if those 2 teams meet for the title in Atlanta again, Texas is going to say, oh, well, can they beat Georgia? Because they haven't done it yet. And that's the thing that's kind of hurting there. But I want to see Georgia have more explosive plays in the passing game. I think that's something they need to do. I think they're loaded. They have some talented receivers, but we'll see. Tight end is a loaded position. Nate Frazier, running back. Man, you've got a solid workhorse there. Let's see if he can get to 1,000. He was a little bit under it last season. And, Gunnar Stockton is just one of them guys. We can say this. He's not going to be an NFL starting quarterback more than likely. It would be very shocking if that transpired that way. But he is what you want as your program, as your starting quarterback college football. He is gritty. He is a leader. And you could tell that this team really responds to him versus the previous quarterback. I won't name it. Just name him just for Georgia fans' sake. And Richard, they're going to be good defensively.
Yeah.
And the thing is with Georgia, they're the kind of team, when you get up on them, you better not take your foot off the gas, because you have got to beat them about 7 times in a game to beat them, to get the W. Because if Georgia has any life in a game, they are going to fight. They're going to call. That team will fight for Kirby Smart. And that's what this team is. Now, can they get over the hump? My pick is Georgia. I'm picking Georgia to win the SEC. Because I'll say this, until Texas can beat them, I'm not going to believe they can beat them. That's just, I think there's a mental side of that. And I think Kirby Smart has the mental edge over Steve Sarkisian in that team right now. They're my favorite, but I want to see – it's like if they win the SEC title, no shock. But what's Georgia going to be when you get into the college football playoff? Can they get over the hump? Can they get into that semifinal? Can they get to the final, the last game, and play for a national championship? Because the sad thing is, it used to be, and me and you are probably close in age. We remember a time where if you won the SEC, that was a great year. Winning the SEC championship just meant a lot. I don't think it means as much now just because everybody wants a national title with the college football playoff. Like, if Georgia, you think Georgia would be upset if they didn't win the SEC but won a national championship? No, they wouldn't. They'd be fine with it. All these teams would. So, but we'll see. They are the best program in the SEC right now, without question. But again, it's kind of like an overall SEC problem too. What you going to do in the playoff?
Yeah, no question about it. The final team I want to preview in getting ready for SEC Media Days is LSU. And there's no coincidence that Lane Kiffin is taking the podium on day 4, because what happened last year at SEC Media Days, we all left Wednesday night. I think last year, Arkansas, Kentucky, they had some teams that were on that 4th day. But no, they decided to save the best for last. Everybody is there to hear Lane Kiffin take that podium. So they got LSU going on the 4th day, along with Steve Sarkisian. I think that 4th day is a loaded lineup. But LSU brought Lane Kiffin for one reason and one reason only, and that's to win a national championship. Couldn't get it done with Brian Kelly. I thought Brian Kelly was a really good hire, but we all know the expectations at LSU. So if Lane Kiffin does not win a national championship, how much wiggle room does he have, and how long could he stay at LSU until he gets the job done? So what's the leash like for Lane Kiffin at LSU?
Well, I'll say this: he's going to leave LSU at some point. I'm fully confident. So LSU fans, you better get that title within the next 3 or 4 years, because he's going to leave. I think there will be another job.
Does he go to the NFL?
See, that's the thing too, because I've always felt like, he had that early in his coaching career where he was the head coach of the Raiders for like a year and a half. Al Davis,
31 years old.
Again, very young. I've always felt like, from a coach, X's and O's, I think Lane Kiffin's one of the best offensive minds we have at any level of the sport. But, and you're talking about Brian Kelly, this is where Brian Kelly failed. The previous coaches, Nick Saban, Les Miles, Ed Orgeron, all won national championships at LSU. Brian Kelly was not able to do that. I think Brian Kelly is a good coach, but he was a bad fit there. He probably lost a lot of LSU fans when he did that fake Cajun accent when he got introduced at the basketball game when he first got there. That did not help him. Now, Lane, he's not going to try and do that stuff. So, and you're going to be good offensively. They've got some good defensive players. And retaining Blake Baker as your defensive coordinator was probably the best recruiting job he did. Keeping him there with you, because that LSU defense was really good last year. It was funny. The first 3 years, Brian Kelly their defense was horrible. The offense had to win games. They finally get a defense, and the offense just couldn't do anything because Garrett Nussmeier was hurt all year. We'll see how Sam Levitt is in the big moments again. LSU's got to figure out some stuff at wide receiver. Defense, they should be good. Weeks to at linebacker, which, no shock. Everybody pays attention to know that he stayed at LSU. He didn't hit the transfer portal. We know why. We don't have to dive into why. I said this at the beginning of our conversation. I just wish he would quit talking about Ole Miss. He's going to talk about Ole Miss next week. I guarantee you. He's probably going to say something about Ole Miss, and he keeps fussing about that whole thing. I'm like, dude, get over it. I was like, Ole Miss is not talking about you anymore. They're moved on. You need to as well. You are now the LSU head coach. But look, and this is something I believe. I don't know it. I don't know this by any stretch. This is just something I believe. I believe if Alabama came open and they came calling, I think Lane Kiffin would leave LSU for Alabama. I also believe if Texas comes open, because I think Steve Sarkisian is a guy I could see in the NFL. I think if Texas came calling for Lane Kiffin, he would leave LSU. I'm just saying, as much as Lane has said, you can't trust him. He kind of reverted back to his old ways at the end there at Ole Miss. And I would just tell LSU fans, enjoy Lane Kiffin while he is there, but more than likely he's not going to be there very long.
Phillip, it is such a pleasure having you back on the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. And by the way, congratulations to your alma mater, the Troy Trojans, for making it to the College World Series. That was huge. That was incredible.
Yeah, it was great. Which of course I joke with people. You know, they had that do or die game against Ole Miss. I'm like, all right, please don't have the team I cover and then also the school I go to lose to Ole Miss and get knocked out of this thing, because Auburn lost and got knocked out by Ole Miss. But that was great, and the run they went on, and just the scene in Troy, Alabama, hosting the Super Regional against Little Rock, and just seeing how many people flocked to those games in Troy was great. Man, it was fun. I had Barry McKnight, the voice of the Trojans, on the podcast after the Super Regional stuff. Man, it was exciting talking to him and just the great calls he made. It was really a great time there. So, hey, and your Columbus folks, hey, I'm just saying, if they want to check out a soccer team, I don't know if they like it or not, but got the Dothan United Dragons down here.
I saw Dothan United in the USL playoffs. Actually, I'm the voice of Columbus United FC. We actually tied Dothan up in Columbus, but lost down at Rip Hughes Stadium 2-0. So, yeah, the top two teams in the South Central Division, Dothan United and the Swarm, end up making the playoffs. Columbus United ends up finishing third, and their season is over.
Yeah, that was the thing, and it's a big deal for Thursday. They're hosting the pod down here again. So, yeah, I thought I'd throw in a deal. Dothan United Dragons plug in there. Video board operator this season. So,
oh, nice. Yeah, I know you're going to love it. Definitely. We're definitely in the soccer fever, especially with the World Cup going on. Mm-hmm. Phillip, once again, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully I get you back on soon, sooner rather than later. But thanks again for being a guest here on the Sports Beat.
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. Appreciate you having me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Phillip Jordan back on the Sports Beat. Thank you so much for watching yet another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. Don't forget that you can like us on Facebook, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll be back next Monday night, 5 o'clock on my Facebook page and YouTube channel. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Have a great rest of your night, everybody.
Thank you for watching the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. You can catch new episodes on Facebook and YouTube every Monday and Wednesday night at 5 p.m. The Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge is a local podcast that covers sports in Columbus, Georgia.